Can you track a stock F-150 pickup truck? Well, we're here at Nelson Ledges and had a little bit of downtime and thought, well, you know what? I brought my truck. Let's take it around the track and see what it's got. 2023 F-150 bone stock. It's an XL. It does have one kind of significant option, which is the 5-liter and 10-speed. But we're going to go out and track it and see what it'll do. All right, as we kind of get out there and start some laps in this F-150, yeah, just I said it was stock, and I do want to clarify that. So, yes, the truck is basically stock, except it is tuned. The 5-liter Coyote is such a great motor. I've got a tune from Ken Osborne, Oz Tuning, and I don't know how you could drive one of these trucks without it. The shifting is so much better. Obviously, the engine performance is better. So it is stock, except for it does have a tune, and yeah, that's where a lot of the performance, the motor performance comes from. And this is my daily driver. So the way I did this is we went out in sport mode. I turned everything off, so no electronics, even though the electronics will still sort of kick in at times. And yeah, it's on the stock 245 7017 Michelin's. This is a 2-wheel drive version. So it does have a locking differential, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. So get going here on my warm-up lap. And yeah, if you don't want to see all the laps, I do a warm-up lap here. I do 2 hot laps. The kind of second lap where I kind of start to get into it a little bit, boy, the truck starts to be a little bit of a handful. I start to be a little bit rushy. I take a lap off, and then I do one last flyer. And then we'll do a little bit of a wrap-up after this. So if you want to skip to the fast lap at 650, go for it. Otherwise, enjoy. So to wrap up with our little F-150 experiment, can you track an F-150 around the racetrack? Well, yeah, I mean, you can track anything. I've tracked a lot of pickup trucks and vans around the tracks, but really never kind of for a lap time and really never at that pace. So can you track it? Yeah. Should you? Yeah, probably not. That was actually not a very good time. Um, let's just kind of dive into it. Uh, some of the wrap up with it. So I ended up doing a 26.9, and I did have a little bit of a better segment on. I think it was the third lap, second flying lap, uh, but definitely got rushy and wasn't very happy. Had the thing kind of get a little bit out of control in 13 in not a good way, and also in the kink. So the kink, I did have a much better segment, but going through the kink in that truck at almost 100 miles an hour, not a good time. Yeah, not a good time. So we ended up with a 26.9, and I don't know if I could have gone a lot quicker safely. So let's just kind of go over the good and the bad. The good, the motor is amazing, right? You can hear the thing rip out, and honestly, that's where a lot of the lap time comes from, is the motor. Also, the brakes were great. I didn't touch the brakes; everything was stock. I mean, I drove the truck 5 hours to get there, and then we did our days, and then 5 hours back. So yeah, the brakes are great. Actually, very good feel with the brakes, and I could start. You could hear in the video, right? It's just to start to get into a little bit of the tires making some noise on the braking. So brake feel was great. The motor was great. That's pretty much it. The bad, yeah. The first one is the weight transfer. The weight transfer is honestly a little bit overwhelming. The thing is obviously sprung very stiffly. There's very little damping into things, so controlling the weight forward and back, not good. And it took me a little bit of time to wrap my head around how bad that was, and how you had to go to the brakes, and how you're releasing the brakes, and how you let the thing point. That in combination with the rear differential. So it has an electronic differential, but it's really only good for below 20 miles an hour. And they're not that great even below that. So the rear diff was basically open. And with the power, two-wheel drive, light, not a good experience on the exits. You'd either burn the tire off or catch, and then a couple of the exits weren't that great. So you just had to be really patient, and of course that brings you to the electronics, right? So the electronics weren't that wonderful as well. I was in sport mode, and I thought about doing it manually. And when I set out cones for these days, I did try some manual just to see how the manual worked, and I didn't really like it. There were the delays. The upshifts were fine. The delays on the downshifts were not great. And the engine braking was honestly very inconsistent. So I just decided to leave it in sport mode and kind of let it do its thing. So yeah, the way that the power came on with the diff, not a great time, and you really had to be patient on getting it pointed. And even coming out of the carousel, the last good lap, the thing kind of spun up and started to creep a little bit closer to the edge of the track than I was comfortable with. And then the last thing was the camber. Yeah, I mean, the thing felt like it had positive camber in it, and just not great. And even after those, whatever it was, 3 or 4 laps, you could see the front tires were not in great shape in just that few laps. And yeah, I know, little skinny tires. So yeah, can you lap an F-150 around the track? Yep. Would I recommend it? Nope. I sure wouldn't. It'd be kind of fun. I mean, the lap time's not that horrible, all things considered. If you kind of give some context for all of this, and I'll put up a couple graphs here actually, I'll do some graphs right now while I'm chatting. So a little bit of context with this is, like, let's say a spec Miata, for instance. Like a spec Miata will get around there in the high teens, but a lot of the laps for those are kind of in the, I would say, low 20s. And so for context, this is a lap that we do a lot of training out there in cars. This is a lap with Taurus police car, stock Taurus police car with a brake upgrade. And this will give you a little bit of an idea of where we're at. So the F-150 is in blue. Obviously, you can see the speed difference. The Taurus is in red. And I mean, mid-corner things just getting punished. And also you can see here a lot on the exits where we have a little bit of a dip on the exits. It's just because you have to wait, or you get wheel spin off the exit. So that's the graph compared to a Taurus police car. And Tourist Police Car lap on this one was a 25.7. I think the best we've ever done in the Tourist Police Car, we might have done a 24, maybe. And that's got some decent tires on it and all that. So not that, I mean, honestly, not that far off. The king of our stock vehicle lap times happens to be my wife's Audi Q5. And hopefully she does not watch this video to know about this. But the Audi's done a 24.3, and it was really limited with electronics. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I mean 24.3, and that's kind of our best ever sort of stock car lap time. And you can see the sort of the same thing, right? Just middle of the corner thing just getting crushed. The kink is the big one. It's just massive miles an hour compared to that. So the last one we'll compare it to, and it's a little bit unfair on this one, is I will compare it to, let's see here. I have one more I want to compare it to, and we will compare it to, where is it? Yeah, here it is. A C7 Grand Sport Corvette. So Corvette in this particular one, and I was a driver on all of these. We did 11.3 in the GS, and you can just see, yeah, it just how much lacking it is in the middle of the corner. And the funny part is the lateral grip, I mean, wasn't horrible, but it just wouldn't do anything. So there you go. Track an F-150, not on my recommended, not on my recommended list.